Okay, this is going to be a one-shot. I'm usually not the best person to do one-shot. I usually script everything. So bear with me if I start rambling. I try not to, but if I do, forgive me. It is 2025, as we all know, but I feel like in certain points we have never left the 50s. I'm autistic, I'm late diagnosed autistic, and my whole personality is that I am craving knowledge. I see things, I get interested in things, and I want to know things. And I will not stop until I know so much that some people might even consider me an expert in certain fields. And honestly, it is great because if you are knowledgeable in so many different fields, it just means that you see a bigger picture of certain problems and you can connect things with each other, and it makes it awesome for problem solving. My interests are not only gathering knowledge but also gathering skills. So my hobbies and my passions that I had, or that I still have, are mainly in the creative realm. I have been drawing, I have been painting, and I have been writing. And let's talk about writing because I have noticed something. I have not been writing for probably over 10 years before I got back to writing in last August or it was more like last fall. Last fall, the spark of writing was ignited by a friend who inspired me to go back to writing and who saw my potential and really motivated me to go and raise my voice and write about things that interest me. And I will keep saying this over and over again, but positive affirmation on positive words from someone you trust is such a great motivator to just do things and to enjoy things. But here's the problem. The problem is that while it is 2025, me being a woman or identifying as a woman, because I don't think it has something to do with being a cis woman, but I think as soon as you're like female presenting, you run into the problem that your passions and your hobbies and your interests are not seen as an authentic interest, but they're rather seen as something you do in order to impress men. And honestly, it sounds so stupid to even say that, to even say it out loud, because in my mind, this is such a weird concept. But when I got back to writing in August or September, I noticed that I told my friends around me that I would go back to writing. The reaction to it was interesting. It was not like that I got the same very supportive reaction from everyone. It was more like that I got a big range of answers or reactions to this. Of course, my closest friends were cheering for me, despite them not having met me as a writer before. Because I have been a professional writer like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I have earned my money with that. And I took a break for numerous reasons, which was like a 10-year break. So when they got to know me, I was not a writer. And me going back to writing came as a surprise to them, but they fully supported me. But then I also heard other voices, and right now, as you probably know if you're into writing, or if you're a reader, if you're into reading, you know that we are in a phase where romantic novels, dark fantasy have a big hype, and many readers are interested in it. And I don't judge over it because I feel like you should read and you should write what you enjoy. But I also noticed it's a very female-focused interest. And for it being a very female-focused genre, people around me assumed that this is naturally where I am delving into. So I heard comments like, oh, so you're a writer, so you're going to write smut novels now. And I was like confused, because why would that be the first assumption that someone has when I talk about going back into writing? And as like a background information, I used to write articles in print and online about the ethics of technology and technology evolution and development, and that was like my thing back then. And now it's not anymore. I mean, I'm still interested, but I'm not interested about writing, but I'm not interested in writing about it. But that the first thought of people went into that I must go into the smut area of writing because I'm a woman, that was awkward. That was a very weird experience for me. And while this was a weird experience, I thought it was just a weird exception, that it was just like something this person would have thought and said. And now a few months have passed since I went back into writing and also went very public about it, because I'm just a very public person. So I share the things I'm interested in to maybe also inspire others. And I have noticed that it wasn't an exception. I have noticed that every time I talk about my passions and about my interests, that me being a woman is the center and the focus of that discussion. My passion or my hobbies or my interests are usually not seen as an authentic representation of what I enjoy and what I like and what I stand for, and honestly what builds my character. But they are seen as a fulfillment of a fantasy. When men hear that I am interested in certain things, like when men hear that I write poems, when men hear I am interested in old literature, I don't know why, but it turns a switch in their head, which makes my interests and my passions just a flavor to them objectifying me. And I talked to a friend about this, and I tried to explain it to him how I see it. And I told him that passions and interests are often just used as the mental pornography category and genre section for some men. So if you're a writer, you're then the hot writer. Or if you are writing poems, you're the hot poet. And everything you do and everything you stand for and everything you're interested in is simply there to make you be true to that genre and true to that fantasy of that person. And this is not in a context where you would say you're in a relationship with someone, but this is in the context of men witnessing you talking about your interests. And what does this to a person? What does this to a woman or a female presenting person that is interested in things and just wants to share this interest? I can tell you how I felt. I felt low-key violated in a way that I felt like everything I do in my life is just seen as me trying to please the fantasy of a man. And I had a moment where I just wanted to sit down and I wanted to write. And I opened up my document where I'm writing, and I felt dirty. I felt like I'm doing something against my will. I felt like I'm doing something to just please someone else in which I had no say in. And you know what the really sad thing is? It is my true interest. It is my true passion. But seeing that I am approached in a way where I am so heavily objectified in my interests, it just reframed my interests to myself. And that was the point where I said, stop, I need a break. I need to sort these thoughts for myself, and I need to find out why it bothers me so much. And you know what another really sad thing is? While I was thinking about it, and I was actually journaling about it, I was writing down my thoughts, I was writing down my experiences, I noticed that I had given up so many of my passions and interests in the past because of that exact reason. I gave up so many interest because I was made to feel bad about it, or I was made to feel objectified about it. I was made to feel that this is not a true interest of mine, but this is just a superficial interest or a superficial presentation of an interest that can only be done by a woman to impress a man. And honestly, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's so frustrating because then thinking back and going through all the situations, going through all of the interests and all of the hobbies that I dropped, I realized how much I had given up in the past many, many years because I was made to feel bad about it. So I looked further into it and I stumbled upon the term the male gaze. And the male gaze is a term that has been brought up in 1975 by Laura Mulvey. She was a film critic, and it talked about how in art, literature, movies, TV series, women are often seen from a male heterosexual perspective, which means women are written and women are portrayed from the view of a man. There has also been this ongoing collection of examples, men writing women, where women have collected scenes out of books where a man writes about a woman from a male perspective, and it has really nothing to do with the reality of a woman, and just shows how little the writer actually knew about women. The male gaze basically objectifies women in their appearance, in their personality, as the object of a male desire. And while in movies, I can see a point in that because movies are storytelling and movies are not real. The problem is that when this is overdone in movies and books and literature, people will internalize this. Like, people will see the movies, people will read the books and will see this as a realistic mirroring of the reality. And then we run into the problem that I want to talk about. We run into the problem that women around men will always be perceived as an object of their desire. And everything a woman does will always be seen as something they do for the man. And we see this almost everywhere. We see this when women decide what to wear, when women decide how to look, when women decide how to present themselves, that the first thing they will hear from a man is like, oh, you won't get a man this way, or we men don't like this. And women rightfully say, we really don't care. It's not about you. We don't do this for you. But the fact that this is still a conversation we're having and that this is still a problem we have in 2025 is so wild to me. And yesterday, I kind of had a low with that. I was feeling really down. And I thought, I envy men for being able to express their interest in things and not having to prove themselves twice that they are really interested in things. Like, a man can just go out and say, I'm a writer, and people were like, hey, that's pretty cool. Maybe they will ask, what are you writing about? But they will not turn their gender into a reason for questioning their interest or for questioning their hobby or for questioning their profession. That just doesn't happen. And sometimes I would also like to say, hey, I like to write poems, and not having the feeling it immediately gets devalued because I'm not a man. Because realistically, if you are interested in things that are not gendered and in things, or even if you're interested in things that in the past may be more of a man's interest or in a male dominated field, you will have to prove yourself. You know, like this meme that has been going around when you're wearing a band shirt and men you don't know will approach you and ask you if you can name song names of that band of the shirt you're wearing. It is a weird mixture of sexism, gatekeeping, and overall devaluing interests of women. And the sad thing is, nobody in a passion, in a hobby, in a field is perfect. And I want to feel safe having a space where I can explore things, where I can read things, where I can find out about writers, where I can talk to friends and they suggest writers to me or they suggest books to me. And it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter like how known those books are and I don't know them. But I want to feel safe around them, exploring these topics. And I want to feel safe finding things for the first time and being enthusiastic and excited about it. But then more than often, I feel like I have to be perfect. I have to know everything. I have to be able to do everything. And as soon as this one little thing, as soon as I don't know that one little thing, people try to see this as a reason why I don't belong in a space. And I know I'm generalizing quite a bit in this, and it is a collection of experiences I have made in the past, and especially in the past few months. If it happens with different people out of different groups and in different situations, it becomes a pattern. And it becomes a pattern that I see as problematic, because as soon as it affects me in my willingness and motivation to do something because I feel bad about myself or I feel bad about taking up space in a community because I'm a woman, that is where I draw the line, where it's a problem and where it's a problem we need to talk about. So what do I do about it? What can I do about it? I mean, it is easy to say, well, suck it up, buttercup, grow some thick skin and that's it. Because especially in a space like writing, poetry, it is so important that you open up and that you are vulnerable, that you're emotional and that you let out all of your thoughts and your feelings into the things you write. Because that's what it's all about. It's about expressing human feelings and human thoughts. And I do not want to be in a space where I feel like I have to wall up in order to be safe and do the thing. Because when I wall up, I cannot do the thing. But I'm also realistic enough to know that I, as a single person, cannot change the world. I cannot change the perception of men that don't know me and that I don't know. I know this for myself as well. I will always run into people that are narrow-minded and that will use my passion as a way to objectify me. So what do I do? It seems to be like a tricky situation without any proper outcome. Everything I can do are things I can do for myself. I have looked to other creators how they do it. And in German we have the thing where we have a gendered version of a title or a word. So if you are a writer, Schreiber, but you're a female writer, you're Schreiberin. So we put an IN at the end of the word to say that you are the female version of that occupation. And I've seen a lot of women who are in a field that they don't do this anymore. They're not gendering their title anymore because they have noticed that they will never be perceived as someone of that occupation, but they will be put into this subcategory of the female version of that occupation. And in English, you don't have this gendered version of a word because you use female in front. I feel like I just need to drop this. I just need to drop being a female writer. I need to drop being a female poet because I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I don't need to narrow it down more because there's no point in narrowing down. Because quite honestly, I don't want to be a subcategory. I want to be part of the category. I want to be part of the big group. I don't want to be my own little club. And I think this is one thing that I can do. And this is one thing that I can express for myself. And hoping that this is a signal enough that I'm not taking any comments anymore. But is this the ultimate solution for everything? Probably not, because I'm not the problem. That's the thing. I need to find a solution how I handle these things and I deal with it while not being the problem. Because there is not a solution that I can do. There's not a solution that I can bring forward. Sure, I can be outspoken. I can tell people I'm not okay with this and I do this, but it helps for maybe that person at that point. Maybe they apologize, maybe they don't, maybe they get defensive. It puts more pressure on my shoulders, defending my position in a hobby and in a passion. And I'm tired of this, honestly. I'm tired of defending myself. I'm tired of explaining that objectifying me is wrong. Because in 2025, I can assume that people already know that objectifying other people for what they are interested in and for what they are passionate about is not right. It's not correct. So as you know, it is a rough thought. It is a rough idea I have. I do not have the perfect solution. Maybe you have the perfect solution. I don't. I wish I had it. I wish I knew where to go from here and never have to think about it again. But I know it's like a utopia. It is a utopia. But yeah, this is my one shot. This is my thing I want to talk about. I'm annoyed by being objectified for the interests I have. And I think we shouldn't do this anymore. I don't think anyone in this world should be objectified for their interests and should be narrowed down only to their interests, because humans are wonderful. Humans have a variety of interests and humans are not only here to entertain and to please other people. We are all here on our own terms and we all just want to have a little part of the world in which we can exist and in which we can express ourselves.